Welcome to Cosmic Eye Radio with your host, Commander Elion, Ashtar Command Radio Worldwide. Another live show this Sunday morning, and it is starting to snow out here in New England on the drive into the radio station. This is non-commercial, listener-supported Pacifica NPR Radio, WESU, and on the web worldwide, listeners at www.wesufm.org. And this morning we have a special guest, James Gilliland, and we had him on a few years ago. It's been too many years, and we're not going to try to make that happen again. We'll have him on more regularly, but we do have him on this morning. If you've never heard of him, he's a minister, counselor, international known lecturer, selling authorwood books, Becoming Gods and the Ultimate Soul Journey. James's research in contact had begun many years ago. He's been on the History Channel, UFOs Then and Now, UFO Hotspots, ABC, Fox News, BBC, Paranormal State areas. He also has As You Wish. He also does a radio show, As You Wish, talk radio on the web. And he's just an all-around great person. He's very humble. And he really is dedicated to the mission of light, and that's why he's on the show, because we just have a feeling of a synergy and a kindred spirit with us here from the West End. He's right in the Mount Adams area with his ranch, and that's where many of the positive sightings occur in Mount Adams since even back in the early days. There were spaceship sightings, or what they used to call flying saucers, going into Mount Adams or through Mount Adams that were videotaped by people back in the 50s and even through the 60s. So there's a long history in that area. And so we're going to get him on the line here right now. If you've not gotten a chance to listen to what he has to say, it's been, like I say, a couple of years. And the website he has is Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and the word enlightened is key because that's what it's all about. So let us get him on the radio here. James, are you on with us?
I'm here. Good
morning out there out in the West.
Yeah, it's pretty chilly out here, a little frost on the ground.
Yeah, well, we're getting still clobbered with these snowstorms, but we're here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's good to have you. Go ahead.
No, I said good. Yeah, good to be back on the air.
It's good to have you back, and I was meditating this morning, and I was being told we have to have you back more often to do maybe a segment of what's going on out there, and it sounds like, and that was from the command itself. I do these meditations in the morning, and I get messages. So, but what has been happening lately out there? I know you've been all over the place traveling. You do the radio show, which is phenomenal. I don't know if you had that back then, many years ago when we first had you on the show, but you've really had things accelerate greatly out there. So why don't you give us a little bit of background of how things occurred for you in your life with this whole contact experience?
Well, here at the ranch, everything has been accelerating, and I've been basically on the road. I went to Maui, and I was doing a lot of work on Maui and doing lectures and workshops and a lot of personal counseling over there. And I was hoping that, I kind of went over there to get a much-needed, vacation and recharge, and that didn't really happen.
Didn't work out the way you wanted it to, I guess, huh?
No, it never does, but that's just the way it is. But what's a good thing about, though, there was an incredible response to the information, the new information coming out, and people are really, stepping up to the plate and deciding to, get clear themselves and start being a part of this process. So that's the good news.
Now, what is, for people that say the good information, they'll say, what is he talking about? What is the new information?
Well, there's some new kids on the block right now. And there's the ancient Anunnaki that are coming back, and they're actually benevolent. Mm-hmm. And they're here to take care of the fallen ones. So we've got them coming in, and they're, assisting, dealing with the fallen ones. They're also dealing with some of the degenerate ETs that we've had all these problems with for thousands of years.
That's right.
So there's a major cleanup there with them. And they're working in conjunction with the Pleiadians the Orion Counts of Light and the Andromedans and Arcturians and, Syrians and all the benevolent ones that really want to see us liberated, so we can move forward. So there's, a major movement with these beings, and they're taking down the old grid, the old Archon network, and the tyranny grid is being torn apart. It's pretty much dismantled right now already, and they've removed most of the real nasty ones have been out. They told me they're about a little over 80% done with the getting rid of the unseen ones and the manipulators that are doing things from the fourth dimension and things.
That's been pretty much a lot of people's concerns about the unseen ones, the manipulators who pull the strings pretty much. So now, when did they start cleaning up all of this? How many years back did the project start for them?
Well, I think it's been ongoing for a long time, but we haven't had the assistance that we have now. So it's like the whole universe has stepped up to the plate now to help liberate the Earth. So it's going to get real interesting here. I've seen the higher levels are pretty much cleaned up, and of the darkness. I don't want to say higher. I guess the darkest of the dark. The dark.
The lower vibrational frequency vibrational beings. You mean?
Yeah, and most of the reptilians are gone now. Some of the last ones have just given it up finally, from what I understand, and so a lot of that's just being cleaned out. But now we still have their puppets here on the Earth, that are still doing their thing, that are installed. The uber elite and all these people.
And when you say puppets, are you talking about, let's say, people that are so-called elected into different governments of power or what have you?
Yeah, when you move up the network, you might say, or you move up the ladder of power and wealth, the higher you go, the darker it gets. And so they're, and when you get up to the higher levels, they actually do rituals, and they work in conjunction with these beings that are just incredibly negative. They have no respect for creation, for humanity, for nature, anything. And that's why these things you're seeing happening right now. You see the chemtrails and the GMOs and all these things. That's all tied into that, because the people at the top there have absolutely no respect for humanity or nature, and actually they want to see most of us gone. It's like the super elite. They want a slave race, basically. They want the super rich and slaves. That's all they want.
Now, do these dark beings, or these negative beings, have they tried to conquer other planets before Earth, or are they just Earth is their main focus, or has been?
Oh yeah, this has been going on. I've had other past lives where I was involved in this, in planetary liberation and cleanup stuff. So a lot of us have, and a lot of us have incarnated, so we can actually have our feet here on the ground. And when you incarnate in this planet, you have more interest in it. You're, according to universal law, now you are part of the Earth, and you have a lot more say so. And so by doing that, you have a first-hand experience of what it's all about, and more knowledge and wisdom about the Earth and what's happening here. And so there are so many light beings or people from other higher dimensions that have incarnated right now on the planet, that are waking up and realizing that they're not just a body and a personality, and they have a greater family, and their family might be coming from the stars. Now,
excuse me, and one of the things I found interesting, James, and this is WESU FM 88.1 here in WESUFM.org worldwide, is that I'm interested to know, and I've seen some of the TV programs where I've critiqued people going out from media outlets, major media outlets over the years, to the ranch, to be out there to see things. And my question is, and this is probably something listeners probably would want to know, is have you had any physical, like where they would land a ship, a smaller craft, near the ranch where you are, and physically come out? Have you gone to the point where you want to have that kind of relationship?
I have that relationship, and I've had it ever since I was a child. And so, and there are other people, and it depends basically on your consciousness and other agreements that you might have made in the past that you may not be aware of it. But that type of relationship it's just that one isn't for the masses, kind of, because we have to earn it. We have to rise to the occasion to
and you have to be of the right vibration to have that relationship, right?
Exactly. I mean, let's say if you're full of a lot of fear and guilt and unworthiness, and you haven't processed, your wounds and traumas from the past, and you come into contact with these beings, it brings all that up. And very few people have mastered fear, so they fear as soon as something out unknown shows up like that or extraordinary, they go into fear, and some get aggressive and things like that. So you have to master those situations until you're ready for these kind of experiences. And what they told me is that once I went public, they couldn't land anymore. They couldn't come down, and they could fly over and beam you up, basically. But as far as dropping their ships down on the ground, they said it's just too dangerous, and we still have forces in place that would just make your life a living hell, if they were to start landing. So that right now, that's not going to be happening for a while.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. I mean, we're in the process of still cleaning, as you say, the planet. So, and also it might not be safe because then there might be government agencies that say, wow, a ship physically landed, we have to head up there, and that would not be good either, I think. And is that part of that's probably part of their reasoning, I would think, as well.
And I'm not sure what the fine is. I mean, there's laws in place where they can lay a pretty heavy fine on you. They can, confiscate your property and actually throw you in jail.
Yeah.
So there are laws about that. But then if they did that, they'd have to admit UFOs are real. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Catch-22, yeah. No, it's
they're
wild.
not going to come in and arrest you, on a fictitious charge that they can't prove. You say, okay, you arrested me for having contact with UFOs, prove it.
That's right. They can't arrest you for that. I mean, if you're you were just looking at a UFO, we have to arrest you for even visually looking at it. I mean, it's interesting. There are things happening, and on the ranch now. In what year in your childhood did you start having these? I know a lot of children of light who are born biologically here. The whole family, you're born, and you're the one in the family that is that one from another planet. Not to say that your parents weren't, but that you're the one who is like, wait a minute, I'm here on Earth, yet I'm from somewhere else. And when did you realize that?
Well, at about age 5, I was having major contacts, and both my brother and I were having contacts. I don't like use the word abduction. I mean, we were more like willing participants.
Right.
In that experience, and it was benevolent, and we did some hypnotic regression on that. My brother did and looked into it, and I already knew what it was about, but he wanted to see, and he saw that it was benevolent, that it was positive, and so we were having contacts ever since we were kids, and we lived in the high desert in Apple Valley, California.
Yeah.
And that's where the Integratron was, and Otis Carr was building the ship, and Ralph Ring, and all those guys were out there, and we actually saw the stuff that they flew. They actually built the ship and flew it a couple times.
Really?
Yeah, and we actually saw that as kids.
Now, and who are these guys that you're mentioning? Because some people might not know the names. Like in terms, they were part of that genre, that generation. Were they around during the George Van Tassel contactee experiences? Yeah,
they were around during that, and they were around I was trying to think of it. There was some of the old timers. They're in the late 50s and early 60s.
Right, and that was
around that time.
And how old were you then when that was happening?
Well, I was pretty young, like a small child.
Small child, yeah. So but you were in a place where history was being made cosmically as a kid. They were all around you there, right?
Yeah. Excuse me, I got a little cold I'm trying to get rid of here.
No, I understand.
As half the nation right now.
Yeah, it happens. But so you were there.
Oh, yeah, we were there, and we saw, we would see things, as kids, we would sleep outside, because in the desert it gets pretty hot at night, it's hard to sleep, and so we'd take our sleeping bags, and we had about a half acre of lawn, and we'd just throw it out on the lawn and sleep at night. And watch the sky, and that was kind of what we did at night. But we would see all kinds of things there, just undeniable things flying around in the desert, where I live. And I think this was way before a lot of the back engineered stuff was out there. So it definitely wasn't ours. These things were making right angle turns at several thousand miles an hour, doing zigzag patterns, and just one solid blue light or orange light, things like that. And they would land in the surrounding mountains. They'd light up the whole mountains.
Wow!
And everybody knew about it. And everybody jump in their jeeps and drive out there to try to find out what happened.
And they they didn't ever. Well, I can't say they didn't never succeed, but maybe did they land specifically for contact with certain people, maybe, or nobody really knew?
Yeah, I think they were. I think they were doing that. I mean, that's what's been happening. I find out that they select who they want to work with, and so certain people will have very close contact and ongoing contact, and other people will have intermittent contact. It just depends on kind of what your mission is, or what your sole purpose is.
Yeah.
So people that are aligned with that actually incarnated to do these things are ready for it, and they're having much closer contact. And what's weird with my family is my father was very involved in Roswell, and out of Carlsbad,
really,
New Mexico, and his my grandfather sold the Swinsons all their farm equipment and things like that. So they knew everybody there, and my grandmother knew the first responders, the sheriffs. I can't remember what his name was. Was it Wilcox? I can't remember what this.
Oh, you're talking about? I think it was Wilcox, and then it was the farmer out there who initially, before the military came out there, had found the wreckage on his land.
Yeah.
So that was something.
The Swinson Ranch, so what happened was the sheriff, the first responders, and the deputy came to my grandmother's house, and they were white as a sheet, and they couldn't even hold a coffee cup. They were shaking.
Wow! It
really shook them up, and they said, we can't talk about it, but he said, I guarantee you, we're not alone. And it really turned their lives upside down. And she said, these are good old boys, And they finally told her what happened out there. So I got, pretty close to the experience. And, they said, there was a crash, there were bodies, and, kind of validated what we already know. Everybody knows. But, so that was interesting. But my dad at times would just pull over the car and he'd say, get out. And we'd get out and he said, look up. And there'd be like 5 ships flying over us.
Wow.
And things like that. So he didn't really talk about it. He didn't really tell us what was going on. He always let us, form our own opinions, it seemed like. But he was like a walking Buddha. Just the way he acted was, he lived the talk. He walked the talk. He's very, very loving, very sensitive, and very, very giving. And he was like the local dentist there, and over half of his patients were freebies, people that couldn't afford, to have dentistry done. So that was his nature.
Wow.
And so he was a good example, and he didn't put anything down, and actually he would show us, like, yeah, they're here, this is real. So, and I also think too that I haven't talked too much about this, but I know there was some genetic tinkering that happened when I was born, and also my whole family is pretty much, save one. I have one sister that's more involved in social consciousness, but the whole family is gifted in one way or another, and very open to paranormal and UFO and activity and things like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's definitely, isn't that kind of interesting how that happens, where, and I'm sure all of your family came from another planet before they came here, like you mentioned, all the incarnations through time, which I totally believe that, because I think we've, whether we realize it unless we're not awakened, we have had other reincarnations. Sometimes we'll remember them in our dream state. And, that's where that happens when we're free of just the physical world we're in here. So it's interesting. And the other thing is, as we lead up into now, I mean, you've had so many incredible experiences, I'm sure, through your life experience here, is what are some of the things that, do you get telepathic messages from those when the ships appear over the ranch? Either when you're by yourself, I'm sure things happen that might not always happen with, let's say, strangers coming who are staying there for a few days. Mm-hmm. Is there any difference between what happens with you individually versus what happens when you're in a group of people?
Well, the telepathy is constant, and I have different beings that I work with, and different groups from different systems come in. That my main contacts are with the Orion Council of Light, and the Palladians are the ones that come in the most. And then some of the masters like Babaji and the known masters come in quite a bit. Mm. So that's constant. I'm always getting constant information about, the condition of the earth and what's happening and the cleanup, the process that's going on. So, and then they also give me personal insights on some people will say, no, steer clear. don't tie your energies to this post, and things like that. So things like that, so they're always kind of guided me. And some things I have to go through. Some mm-hmm. things they go, no, this is part of your karma. You need to interact with this person and do all you can to help them, wake up and figure out why they're here and undo some things that have been done to them. So that happens as well. Yeah,
I mean, I would think it's one of those things where you're gonna, they'll guide you in so many ways, depending on. And it's when you said earlier about the different beings and the different star systems and so forth. In a way, it's sort of like a galactic United Nations of different groups working together of the light, so to speak, right?
It is. Oh yeah, definitely, and there's new ones coming in all the time, and what I'm seeing is a lot of them that just kind of wrote us off. That just said, oh, they're just going to nuke themselves and destroy themselves.
Yeah.
Are surprised, that we're still here, and now they're stepping in and starting to help out.
Well, are they surprised because we on our own, came to a point? Maybe it's just a generational difference as time has gone by, that a younger generation has refuted a lot of the negativity that has created the Cold War and all these things we had growing up as kids, that there is a new consciousness, and if you want to call it the indigo children consciousness, mm-hmm. which is a word terminology used, which I think I can use relatively here. In terms of that, do you think that's part of what's happening, is that they on their end of it, the ones that wrote us off, these other beings of light who wrote us off, now see that people don't want to blow up our planet, that we want to have a sustainable planet that can transform into a higher frequency of light?
Yeah, definitely. And what I've seen, I saw something that actually it almost, made me cry, basically, but somebody put this video together, all these school kids, and it's called the New McDonald Farm. Mm-hmm. And they start off with the old McDonald story, and then it evolves into the it goes into the GMOs, everything. There's old McDonald had a farm, and then it shows them doing the GMOs and the pesticides and everything, and all these kids are singing. It's just amazing what they did, and then then everything just goes to hell, and crashes. It's so
gosh.
and then all of a sudden it stops, and it goes dark, and then they go back into New McDonald had a farm, and then they change it, and they show how the farms changed, and went all natural and no GMOs and no pesticides and everything organic.
Yeah, it sounds like I'll have to take a listen to that, because it sounds like visually it's a visual thing, correct?
Yeah, it's a video, but put on by these school children. But mm-hmm. It was they just nailed it, like everything that's wrong with our system, basically. And then brought a solution in afterwards. So
yeah,
when I see things like that, I just go, well, there's hope. There's hope.
Oh yeah, well, we got it, because the thing is, I think like you're saying, and again, this is WESU FM 88.1, the Cosmic Eye Astro Command Radio Show, on WESUFM.org. James Gilliland is our guest from the ranch out in Mount Adams, which is here on the planet, a very, very interactive, positive extraterrestrial base. And we're talking about really the whole transformation of the Earth and what's happening out there, and James's life growing up, which and so we're giving you sort of an on-air book about you, James, a little bit, and it's interesting. It's a very interesting story. Always when we get, this is my second time we've had you on the show, and in a couple of years, and I'm going to make it more frequently, of course, but we still have plenty of time, and that's a beautiful part of no commercials on here, and I have complete control of what I do, and I'm here also to liberate the planet, and that's what the show's about here. So,
great.
It's a good thing. And
I wrote a physical book on that. It's called The Ultimate Soul Journey.
What's that about?
And a lot of the things I'm talking about, all the different experiences with the different groups and the different beings, and the contacts and their messages, and it's more of an autobiography, but it covers everything from the interdimensionals to the masters to Bigfoot to the fairy kingdom. It covers just about everything in there.
You just had me think about something here. I watch some of the shows, basically maybe History Channel, and I'll to critique them, and I'll watch things like Finding Bigfoot. And you mentioned Bigfoot, which that's what we call it. That's just what we call it. But that's probably not an accurate description of what that being is or what it would call itself. So let me ask you a question. You live in an area that has had historically some of those things occur as well. Have you had any sightings or interactions with those beings on the ranch?
Yeah, I've had 4, and we had Clyde Lewis, who has Ground Zero, the radio show. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he came out to the ranch with the group, and he had an engineer and some other people, and he was going to do some research on whether this UFO phenomenon was real, because there's a lot of debunkers out there. There's just satellites and meteors and things like that. So he brought a group out here, and they checked it out, and he started seeing all the ships and everything. It was amazing. And the guy kept saying, "No, not a satellite, not a satellite. That's not." And so we just kept hearing that over and over. Not a satellite. But what's funny is the next morning he was in the guest house, and he came walking out, and there's a young Bigfoot that hangs around here. He's a smaller one. He's not very old, but he's kind of a little prankster. And he took off. It was hilarious. But what he did was Clyde walked out of the guest house, and this Bigfoot ran right up to him, hit it, stopped, slid, on the wet grass. Yeah. Smiling at him, looked him right in the face, and then turned around and ran off, through the apple orchard into the forest. So anyway, it just turned Clyde upside down. He just went, he couldn't believe it. He goes, I can't believe that just happened. So he wasn't going to talk about it, but luckily there was witnesses.
Oh, there were other witnesses to it.
Yeah, that saw it also. So he actually went on the air, and he's been telling that story. He's told it a few times about all the ships he's seen up here and the Bigfoot that paid him a visit.
Now, you said the Bigfoot was smiling?
Oh, yeah.
That is interesting. Let's go on that theme for a minute. TV tends to distort things a little bit, even the best intentions, like the Finding Bigfoot, so to speak, where they use the image of a Bigfoot screaming or yelling, which is still that fear-based whole thing. And again, I have a problem with that. But the thing is, when you talk about the being, the Sasquatch, or what we call a Bigfoot, for lack of a knowledge of what they would call themselves, it's smiling. It's a younger being. Obviously, it wasn't threatening. It wasn't gonna, bite his head off or anything, which is this misnomer of what these beings are. Do you think they have the ability to speak in a language or assimilate into our language to speak to us if it were a peaceful thing? Like if he had the chance to speak to this smaller being, you think it would have responded in some sort of a language?
There's a guy in Canada that supposedly is having conversations with one, and when he talks on the inhale, not the exhale, which is really interesting. But and it doesn't say a lot of words, but does have some vocabulary. But I thought that was interesting. Just watching that whole thing, go down with the just listening to what's going on there. I know Joan Ocean had some contacts with other people that are having them write messages. and things. But I'll tell you, my understanding of them is that they're very highly evolved beings, but they're evolved in nature.
Right.
And they can shapeshift and disappear. They can actually just appear and reappear whenever they want. And we've seen that happen here as well. In my encounters, I've watched one just phase out 50 feet away, standing looking at a female.
Wow.
And she just started walking towards the forest. She never made it to the forest. She just phased out, disappeared. So they have that ability, which I've seen personally. And I've also seen something happen to me in the Snoqualmie Mountains. And I won't say exactly where because I think they need to be left alone up there.
Of course.
But,
I agree with that.
But I saw a light ball flying through the forest, moving really fast. It was about the size of a soccer ball maybe or something like that.
Yeah.
And this thing came right at me. And it came out of the forest, came right at me. And I had a frying pan. I was just getting ready to cook something. And, I actually lifted up the frying pan to try to block this thing, because all of a sudden I turned around, he's coming right at me out of the forest, and the frying pan's probably highly overrated as far as protection against a ball of light, but you do what you can. But but this thing went around me. It went around the van that I was in, and it went down this trail, and so it was under some kind of intelligent guidance,
Right.
And so it went down there, and then so I finished, I made dinner, and I was with a couple other people, and they, what happened was I started hearing this moaning, this like really sad, morbid moaning, and I kept hearing it, and I go, that sounds really bad, like somebody's in trouble, something's going on. I go, that's not a bear, it's not a mountain lion. I've heard those, especially mountain lions when they're mating. It sounds like a woman's getting raped in the forest or something. They scream and they make all kinds of noise. But I've been, living in the forest for a long time, so I know the sounds. But what I heard there was totally different. It was different than anything I'd ever heard. And my first intuition was Bigfoot. Like, oh, that's Bigfoot. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm going to go check it out. And so I went walking towards it, and it wasn't dark yet. It was a full moon. It wasn't dark yet. It was pretty light out. And I walked down this trail to where I heard this moaning, and I got closer and closer to it. I had it in reverse, ready. I could probably run down this trail no matter what it is and get to the car. If I have a little lead time, I could probably get away from whatever it's saying. Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was walking slowly, and I walked right up, and all of a sudden I saw it sitting on a log with bushes in front of it, and it was right next to a lake. But and there was a wash, a big sandy wash there, in between. So I'm standing there looking at it, and it was moaning all until I walked up pretty close to it, and I put my hands out like, "Can I help? Are you all right?" Yeah. Trying to see if this thing, if I could help it out. Well, we just sat there staring at each other, and then it stood up, and I went, "Oh my God, this thing's over 7 feet tall." Oh, easily, yeah. This thing is big.
So what did it do after it stood up?
Well, it stood up, and I could see it was a female, and its face was more human, much more human. It wasn't like, but it was hairy and didn't have much of a neck, but it just stood at me, looking at me, and then I got this telepathic message like, thanks, but no thanks. Like, we don't trust humans, and rightly so, because
of course
everybody's trying to make a buck on them,
or kill them.
But so basically, it nodded at me. It nodded at me, and it kind of smiled like thanks for the gesture, thanks for the gesture, but we found it best not to deal with humans, and that's what I kind of got from it. And it started walking towards the forest and just disappeared, right in front of me. So
you say it disappeared, like it walked into the forest. Now, did it just disappear because it was in the forest, or did it just disappear because it went into another dimension?
It didn't make it to the forest. There was a sandy wash there, and it was halfway across the wash in full view, and it just phased out.
Really?
It just wasn't there anymore. And so it kind of turned my mind upside down a little bit. Like watching this, I went, did I really see that? What the heck was that about? And so I got home. When I got home, I was living with Tom Dongo, who was one of the best remote viewers in the past. He actually, in the very beginning, he had some incredible abilities. And I go, you never believe what happened to me. And he goes, looks at me and smiles. He goes, Bigfoot, and I go, oh, man, I go, good. That was out of the blue, pulled out Bigfoot. And I said, well, what'd you view? And he said it was a female. And I said, wow, that's two, He hit two of them on, two that he wouldn't have known about. And he said it was very distraught. And I said, yeah, that's why it was moaning, because it was very distraught. And I said, well, why was it so upset? And he said it lost its daughter. It couldn't find its daughter.
That's what is that what it said to you telepathically?
No, that's what Tom told me. I didn't. I knew it was really upset, but I didn't know why.
How did he know it lost its daughter, though?
Because he had this ability, I don't know if he's still working with that kind of stuff, but he had this ability to remote view and just see things really clearly. It was amazing, and he could see that, that there's. And I said, well, did she find her daughter? And he says, yeah, the daughter's with the others. They're all back together, and so. I guess there's a whole group of them there, that live there, and but for him to pull that out of the blue, that information, to me was mind-boggling. To be that accurate.
Now, did he do this through remote viewing to know this? Is that how he was able? Because I understand what that means.
He was in Santa Cruz, and he was remote viewing the trip. And so he was, watching us as we're on our trip, and we had a really close connection. So it was easy for us to, almost see through each other's eyes or something. I'm not exactly sure how he does it. But he nailed it. I have to admit, he nailed Bigfoot out of the blue. He knew it was a female, and he knew it was distraught. And to hit those three things shows me clearly that. He did have those abilities. So
now, where do they come from? This is, and I'm asking you this question. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you do. Or maybe the thing is, it's very interesting to figure that you mentioned they're intelligent, highly advanced in their own spirituality, but they're involved in nature versus like we're a human being. We go. Obviously, we like to hike in the woods if we're into that. Some people are more into the plastic part of society, which is just looking like just the city and the concrete and all that. They're more in the mountains, into nature and the water. Is their origin from this planet, or did they come from some other planet?
So a lot of people say they're abroad here, but they've been around here forever. And when we go into the forest, we're very loud. And kind of obnoxious when we're in the forest.
Yeah, it tends to be.
And they see us coming a mile away, and they're also ultra sensitive. But the Native Americans here say that if you go out looking for Bigfoot, you'll never find him. But if Bigfoot wants to find you, it will. So it's a matter of consciousness and being conscious out there, and having that inner sensitivity tuned up to where you can actually know they're around and invite them in and work with them on a higher level, and they'll sense your nature and your intent. But as far as coming from another planet, they've been around forever that I know of, and they're part of the human experience, and evolved, into nature, and that's as far as I know. I mean, the whole Earth is a colony. It's been colonized several times.
And had to start over again, because of cataclysms and meteor impacts and pole shifts and things like that. So who knows? They might have survived all of that, but they've just been around forever, and I think they're part of the human experience that evolved in a different direction. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And you're right. I mean, we've had ups and downs, ebbs and flows on this planet. The planet's millions of years old, and when it's funny how some people say, well, human life didn't exist until whatever, based on traditional historical lookings of our planet. But those who are looking at it from a much broader perspective, like yourself, and also because you have the contacts with people from other planets, and you have the experiences on the ranch, and since you were a child, obviously you're going to know that, wait a minute, what we've been taught in schooling, that's a whole other subject. That when I have a kid that's just turned 17, but when you have kids in school that have teachers, in school, science, astronomy teachers, they don't talk about the things we're talking about with kids. And you got to wonder why. Why can't they expand on that discussion? What do you think?
Well, I mean, we need to have a whole new history book, and we need to understand, even just the recent history is all messed up. We don't even know how we've been hijacked and how all the nonsense has come about, and we need to understand that. But we also need to understand that, we've been around forever as a soul. My soul memories have been returned to me through a contact with the Orion Council of Light. They actually returned my memories to me, and I've been all over the place. And we started out from Creator. We started as a light being, as a Creator being, and we dropped down through all the dimensions to get to here. So we've been all over the place, but we have no memory of that. And we think we're just a body and a personality, and we're kind of trapped by that belief system. And the society programming is everything's external. You find love externally, you find acceptance and approval externally. Happiness is because of the new car you got or the clothes you're wearing or things like that. It's like everything's external. And so because of that programming, we're trapped into this 3D construct, that thinking that that's all that there is. But the truth of the matter is we're a multidimensional being that goes all the way back to the source. And when we understand that we're a spirit, that it's inhabiting a body, and that spirit has many dimensions to it and has been around forever, then we start, awakening to the bigger picture.
And speaking of which, the bigger picture, this is WESU FM 88.1. If you're wondering what station this is at the end of the dial, this is Cosmic Eye Astral Command Radio, broadcasting also on the web at WESUFM.org. And if you're just tuning in, which you could be, that's the way it happens sometimes. We have James Gilliland on our show, and he's out in the Mount Adams area in the state of Washington, also an ET base of positive ET of many civilizations that are interacting with him and with groups of people over the years that come out there. And also, one of the things I wanted to get into was also the area of how the extraterrestrials view our different governing systems here in terms of, do they have contact, let's say, I'll pick out the U.S. government in Washington, for example, or the president. Do any of the beings communicate with you about like a certain area that they're looking at with trying to have the president of a country like the United States come out publicly? Is there any kind of protocol that is in place for that to occur in the future, or nothing like that is going to happen the way we think it is?
Well, I mean, it seems like all the other countries have come out with it. They've all come out with the truth, that the ships are here. They've been here forever. All the artifacts and crash sites and everything of that nature. They've been coming out with that information. All the other countries are doing it except for us. So we're supposed to be a democracy. Actually, we're supposed to be a republic, but we've degenerated to a democracy, and now it's become a dictatorial democracy, corporate sponsored. But the problem with that is that they found out they can't work with institutions, because almost all institutions, as you climb that hierarchical power structure, become more darker and darker and become just to the point where they're actually working with some very dark energies, some negative ETs and demonic type things and stuff like that. So there's no purpose in trying to make contact, with that kind of a faction. It's just no purposeful good. Nothing good will come about it. They'll use the information or the technology or whatever, twist it and turn it on, their own people.
Yeah.
In their lust for power and wealth and, and the programs that they're running. So but basically what they are doing, they are working with, like in Peru, Peruvian government is going to come out with all this real soon.
Oh, the Peruvian government. How did you find out about that? Where did you get that information?
Well, I just spoke at the International UFO Congress, and I was talking to a friend of mine, Giorgio, who's very involved in that. And he said that, the government, the military, everything are they're having contact right now, and they're getting ready to come out with it, and they're all in alignment together. So that's one. I know China and Russia and those guys are releasing their information, about the contact that they've had. So it's I think it's going to start happening real quickly now. There's just going to be a major unfoldment, and pretty soon, our president's going to have so much egg on his face, he's going to have to do something, So.
Yeah, no, it's and I'm surprised. I know one of the gentlemen that was in his Podesta, who was in his cabinet, in his last comments as he had left the administration, has been sorry that he initially, when he had the ability, when he was in the office with the president, didn't push for that release from all the agencies, which he had the ability to, and he was close friends with the president, that he could have done that, and that information could have become public.
Yeah. Well, I think he tried. I think he actually looked into it, and he probably ran into so much red tape and resistance that found out it wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But that's what happens. People come in there with great ideas, and then I would say as soon as the president gets elected, they take him down in the basement and show him the Magruder film.
Yeah.
As part of their briefing, and they said this is what happens. If you don't do what's expected of you. So that's basically how it goes.
Now we're going to take a little mini break so you can get a cup of tea or something. And I know and we're going to have, and we right now have James Gilliland on the show in Mount Adams, Washington, a writer, a lecturer, an international speaker on the subjects of UFOs, healing, and you've just a multitude. You're totally, I would say, multi-dimensional person on Earth. I don't think you can't be put in like a little box, and nor would I want to do that to you. So we're going to be right back. We're going to be listening to this one song from Enigma, which is called The Social Song, and it fits right in with our program. So we'll listen to that, and then we're going to be right back. This is Cosmic Eye Radio. You're listening to WESU FM 88.1 on the dial. And right now we'll go to this song here by Enigma, and we'll be back in just a moment. .org and WESU FM 88.1 non-commercial listener supported Pacifica affiliated radio right here in Middletown, Connecticut. And my good friend out on the west coast, northwestern coast of the U.S., James Gilliland, is my guest at the ranch in Mount Adams, where much positive change and ET activity happens. And we're going to put him back up on the phone here. Good afternoon and good morning, James. Still there? Did we lose him? I don't think we lost him, did we? No. Oh, here we go. No, I had the wrong thing up. That's what it was. Okay. Welcome back. I forgot to put the phone switch up. And that'll happen when you're a little bit spaced out on this show, which happens quite regularly. So we're now about 25 minutes after 12 noon on the East Coast, and welcome back. What other areas would you like to touch on in terms of right now, what's been happening since you got back to Mount Adams in the area and the ranch? Anything that people should know about, be aware of?
Yeah, I actually just returned. I've been gone for about 4 months.
Yeah.
And so I just got back to the ranch, and I really haven't had a chance to get out and do any sky watching or anything. But, I'm sure it's going on. I saw a couple ships the other night. I walked out for just a couple minutes when I first got home, and saw a couple high flyers go by, and then I think it was last night. No, it was the night before last. I didn't go out last night. Night before last, we had some activity up there, but we're not really open right now, so nobody's out looking.
Right. No, yeah, you just got back. It would make perfect sense.
Yeah, but as soon as we get groups out there and people start engaging, interacting, and meditating and things like that, it starts picking up. But at the Congress, I had some at the International UFO Congress. Is really interesting. Before I got there, and just over the past, I'd say the past few months, it's that everything's picked up as far as the resistance as well. I mean, it just got crazy as far as the negative rearing its ugly head on its way out, trying to create as many problems as possible. And I got hit here by microwaves and scalar waves, and some black helicopters came in and just nailed me with some technology that I've never seen before. But I've been recuperating from that.
Oh, that's good.
But the Congress, what's interesting there is I noticed that there was a lot of resistance there as well. To make sure I didn't get up to the podium, and I ran into some amazing healers there. There's a guy named Jerry that helped me out and did some amazing energy work on me. And while he was working on me, my third eye just lit up looked like a gold diamond.
Really?
And my aura expanded out. And they actually got a photograph of that, while he was working on me. And there's a woman named Anina and several other people were actually helping me get my health back up and get my energy straightened out again so I could get up on the stage.
So did you get up on the stage?
Yeah, and so what happened is while I was up on the stage doing my lecture, they took a photograph and I turned into a total light beam while on stage.
Really?
Yeah, which was amazing. You can see the podium and the microphone, and all you see is this huge blue and white light with green on top of it, at the podium, which was really interesting. And there's some other ones where this one woman said I was shape-shifting into like a lion being and all these different beings. She said she had photographs of that. And
were these helicopters and these other people, the negatives, trying to attempt to stop you? Were they at that area when this was happening? This was in Mount Adams. This was before you got back.
Yeah,
right?
that was in Arizona at the International UFO Congress, and they were actually, it was on a Indian reservation, but it's where they had it, a big hotel there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was really good. I mean, they did a great job of doing it, as far as especially the technical end of it and putting the conference together.
Yeah.
But, as all those conferences, you get pulsed by, and I don't know where these pulses are coming. If they're coming from space, I think they're coming from some satellite or space technology or something. Yeah. But, really hitting pretty hard.
Wow.
There, you could feel the energies there. You'd feel this pulse move through you, and all of a sudden you'd be off center, and you'd be going, whoa, where am I? Like what just happened, these magnetic pulses. And I think they're trying to do that to stop the information from getting out.
Right, because they're afraid that, let's face it, you've become, and I still look at you as the humble person I've known you for back when you first did the show, and I still see that and I feel it. And you're a threat to them because you are working with positive extraterrestrial intelligence. You're working with groups of people that come up there that maybe have never had an experience. They could have been skeptical. They come up there and all of a sudden their lives are transformed, and they see this and they say, well, I can't explain this. Now, the thing is you're transforming, you're helping transform humanity. Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, it's definitely, I just do what my soul guides me to do, but the what I found out is that it's kind of interesting. What's been going on is like a lot of people are just really feeling down and just hammered, and it just, what's the use? And I'm just telling them to hang in there because we're over the hump right now, and things are looking really good and on every level. And I'm also working with. I've actually had conversations with some of the Chinese families that are still very spiritual, very noble.
Oh, what happened with the flight? I just pointed out the families in China in terms of, are you relating to the Malaysian flight on this or no?
No, on the gold and the transfers and all that stuff that's going on and what they're doing. So this, we have different factions out there. We have this cabal, and that's the banksters and these guys that have been creating indentured servants forever, enslaving us through dependency and the monetary system and things like that. Well, they're actually out. They're probably, I don't know. They're in their last death throes right now. They're kind of don't have anywhere to go because the white hats, along with some of the Chinese noble families, have actually taken over the IMF. They've taken over the world courts and also the Federal Reserve. Yeah. They've moved into position on the Federal Reserve too. So, there's going to be a huge shift that's going to happen. We're going to go back to Treasury notes, and the Treasury notes are going to be without interest, so we're not going to be, enslaved through debt. And that process is well underway. So from the top down, and a lot of these agencies are no longer to be funded. The ones that have been harmful to humanity, Earth, or those that are working against humanity or against, basic human rights and God-given rights, such as and so those factions are actually phasing out. They're losing their funding unless they get back on board. So I can't talk a lot about that, but I give you an overview. I don't want to give any details of who's who, but I've been talking to key people that are part of that process.
No, we don't need to know who they are, because obviously if you give their cover away, then those that are negative are going to say, well, we want to protect them too. And it's not that I want my audience to know. It's not so much important to know these individual people. They're in place in positions to infiltrate and to transform, right?
Exactly. And so we're going to go through a huge transformation process. So, the good news is that, we're not going to have this huge debt over our heads anymore. We're not going to be enslaved through that program. Everything's going to start freeing up.
Now, when's that program, programs like this take a little bit of time, but from your perspective, talking with these people, when do they suspect they will complete these programs so that this does free up our planetary system?
Well, much of it's already completed, and the announcements are going to be coming out here real soon, because we're going into the Chinese New Year, and that's when the announcements will be made. And so you're going to hear more and more about this process. So it's really interesting. It's just a matter of the energies of the Earth, and the evolution of the Earth no longer supports their program, and they're not frequency specific to the Earth and where she's evolving to. So they are going to collapse no matter what.
Yeah.
And there are higher orders out there that the people on the ground are actually working with, higher orders that are benevolent and that are here to bring about these changes and liberate the Earth. So, so it's a matter of, it's just, it's right around the corner. It's a lot of it's already been done, and there's a few renegade. I mean, there's some renegade black ops programs, and there's a few people that they're still trying to hold out and create, these false flags and pandemics and things. But they're being reined in. A lot of it's been stopped. I mean, they haven't allowed a lot of the things that this cabal group wanted to get put into place. They've actually stopped that. So,
and you don't hear a lot, James, about overall. If you look at the world, I mean, the news will portray or blow up conflicts, like in the Middle East or whatever it might be. Excuse me. But when you look at the Earth in general, granted, there are people maybe having family problems, those little individual things going on that are big to them because they're in the crux of the family, and it's my daughter is on heroin, or this is those things, or maybe someone's been being killed by another group of whatever in the Middle East, and this is going on, and everyone needs to run for the hills. And if you watch the news long enough, you'll see they blow things up so big that you think the world is coming to an end. But that's not really what's going on, but that's what is perceived by how they present stuff to the people of Earth.
Well, I mean, that's how they trap you, through fear, and through separation. Yeah. And so they're going to do all they can to create more fear, more separation, more anger, more aggression. Those are the energies that trap people into this lower field of consciousness. So. Yeah. And they also use technology. They use everything from microwaves to these wind towers to satellite technology, to HARP technology, and the chemtrails, which is one of the most serious things that we need to get on top of. That it seems a lot of people are missing that.
It's not on the top of the list. What are for people that don't know what a chemtrail is, and this is WESU FM and WESUFM.org. The Cosmic Eye Astro Command radio show till 1 o'clock, 11:30 to 1 on the East Coast. James Gilliland is my guest, and we're glad to have him on the show. What are chemtrails for people that might see these things in the skies of Connecticut or the state of Washington or the Midwest, wherever it might be? People are seeing these. What are they, and who created them, and what's the reasoning for this whole thing with chemtrails?
Well, the global elite are behind this, and their cover story is that we're trying to cool the planet down, and solar radiation mitigation, and things like that. But the problem is that what they're using is aluminum, barium, and strontium, all heavy metals, which collapse your immune system and make you susceptible to any kind of opportunistic disease. And they're cumulative, and it's like a slow kill process. And then they're also putting biologicals in these as well. And so the people involved in this have been duped into thinking they're doing something good,
right? When
actually they're doing severe damage, and the forests are really taking a hit from this because the aluminum blocks the uptake, of nutrients into the trees. And so we're having a mass die-off here, in the northwest of the forests. They're also covered with aluminum. So when you have a fire, those fires burn much hotter, much faster, and I know that the people working on the fires here said they've never seen anything like it. They've never seen a fire burn so hot, so fast, and jump and move. Move so fast.
Yeah.
That's another thing. But and just the water, the fish, and everything are just really taking a hit off of this program. And it actually is beyond. It's just a bunch of scientific psychopaths running the show that are hooked into these darker forces that have been duped into thinking that this is good, that this is going to help out the earth or help out humanity. And then they say, well, it's they're trying to protect us from other, weapons, energy weapons and things like that, so they have to create this blanket. Well, you don't protect people by killing them.
That's right. That doesn't work. We're going to protect you, yet we're going to kill you. That's our way of protecting you. Seems like a contradiction in terms.
It's like it's that shock and awe program over in Iraq, Operation Freedom. Operation Freedom, we're going to totally level your city, destroy everybody here, but now you're free.
You're free.
Live in the Stone Ages.
That's right.
Whoever's left can now live in the Stone Ages, and it's like I don't know why people actually can't see through this. There are still people that cannot see the paradox of what this is all about.
Well, that's why people like you and I exist, to break the boundaries of that limitation that people have been brainwashed through, and that goes right back to the schooling of kids.
Exactly.
And it's still, I still see it as a parent that the schools don't teach kids about these things. And if they did, we'd have a much rapider increase in terms of the transformational thing of children understanding things, because when they explore things as little kids, they draw pictures. When they get into high school and even middle school or junior high school, the kids are being programmed through an antiquated system that doesn't it teaches them how to live within a system to be materialistically making money, but not how to understand the cosmos or spirituality or of who we are truly. That they don't teach that in school, and that's part of the problems we've had in our, if you want to say centuries or decades of our current human life. That is really that the schooling systems of the planet Earth, as we transform, they also need to be updated to a more cosmic, spiritual way of teaching kids.
Exactly. Teach them, the basic universal principles, that, such as, brother, sister love, universal peace, individual freedom and prosperity for everyone. If we were taught these principles and lived by them, all this other stuff wouldn't be necessary.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
I mean, I did a little happy dance when I found out they weren't funding Homeland Security.
That was pretty good. Yeah, wasn't that nice to know? And
I go, all right. And then they gave them a week's funding. They said, well, we're going to give you emergency fund for a week, But, I mean, all this stuff, that the threat is fake, Oh,
it is. It's all fake. It's all elevated in fear-based, let's keep the humanity in fear. And so they think they need us to control them, and that's part of the negative ET thing, is to control humanity.
Exactly, and people don't realize that all this security is not necessary. We need to just, if there are, basically we create terrorists. If there are terrorists out there, we create them, because we go to foreign countries and bomb them into oblivion for their oil and for their resources or whatever. There's no such thing as a holy war. It's always been one king or leader wanting what another king had.
Yeah.
And every war has been fought over that. And every war since Napoleon, the same banks have financed every war.
Yeah.
Both sides.
Crazy.
And so I mean, I think it was Smedley Butler or one of these guys wrote a book that war is a racket. And he realizes that this is just a racket.
Yeah.
And I mean, people need to realize that this whole nonsense, and these huge corporations own the media, and so they generate the fear and we have to do this, we have to do that,
right?
And it's all nonsense, and
it's all based on everything that is projected at humanity, commercials, everything on this planet is projected to keep people in fear and control, and it doesn't matter what it is. And I wish we had a lot more time because you and I can probably go into all these things and bust them loose, but. I mean, we're at least giving people an idea. Look, there is another way. There's something changing on Earth. It's a cosmic transformation, and all these Earth-based systems are going to fall apart because they cannot exist in a higher vibrational framework.
Exactly, and that's where things are going. And for people to understand what's happening, they have to go internal.
That's right.
Because they've been so trapped by the external. They think they get love, acceptance, and approval, and everything from external things, people, places, and things, and all that energy is always generated within self. You can be happy for no reason.
Right.
You can be love without falling in love or trying to find somebody to reflect that love back to you.
That's right.
Yeah, there's so many different ways of doing things that we need to break this old pattern, this old externalizing pattern, and go internal. And I think that's when things are really going to change, when people get in touch with make their own personal God, Creator, Spirit connection. And that process, too, is when you meditate and you start working on that process, you're going to make contact with these higher beings, because the mind in which you seek is the mind in which you connect. And so you are going to start connecting with the masters and the higher dimensional beings that are here to assist humanity.
And what a great segue, because we're going to come into about 15 minutes before the end of the show. You're listening to James Gohan, and he's out in Mount Washington. And he is certainly involved with enlightened contact with extraterrestrial intelligence on many levels. And what is your website if people wanted to learn more about what you're doing on a regular basis?
Yeah, the website is eseti.org, and it's under construction right now. But we'll have all the events and the summer events on there real soon. So we have a big summer conference here, and ambassador trainings and self-mastery classes. So interesting.
And just to let you know, James, we have a group here, and I was guided through my meditations with the command to let you know this. We have an Astro Command Spiritual Spaceship Skywatch project. This is our 5th year on the East Coast of the U.S. doing it. It's the only Astro project in the country. And we're going to be building my colleague, we're going to be using a Merkaba star to bring in the ships of light to land in this field at an apple orchard where we do this not too far from where we are here at the station. So we have just gotten, through our fundraising efforts of our Astro fundraiser, another set of 3rd generation night vision equipment. So we'll be using 2 night vision goggles, maybe a 3rd Russian one that a person in our website has said they would donate to us for free. So we want to be able to make sure people have the experience. Our main goal here is to have a smaller ship land in the field and have direct contact. So we're in synergy with what you're doing out in the Northwest, and I'm thinking that we can work together. In many ways here, and we'll have to talk about that more on email and so forth between now and then. But I'd like to have you on the show regularly, maybe to do like a mini news report from Mount Adams. What do you think?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, sure, that'd be great. It's all about cooperating and working together. I noticed at the International UFO Congress is that's one of the problems that's missing there is the unity. And it was better when I went this time. It was really bad in the past because there was so much competition and people thinking they had the whole pie when they just had a piece of it and not really accepting. But I see we all have a piece of the pie. We all have information that needs to be shared, and we all need to cooperate and work together and put it on the table, and then we're going to have the bigger picture.
And that's the thing, the message I got from the command is, the command represents like an umbrella of many planetary worlds, and probably some of the different races of beings that you were talking about earlier. And I'm thinking, it's time for us to unite together as one, and and we're working together. We can work together, you and I, because we have that same energy. And I want to bring people like yourself and others that of the light force on Earth to finally come together as a umbrella group here on Earth. It's time for us to unite our forces of light, and that's what I'm here to do. So I just want to let you know that, and you may certainly pass it on to other people. I'm sure that who don't know about this idea, but I think it's time for us to do it. And I want to thank you, James, for coming on the show today. It's been a good couple of years, but we're not going to be strangers anymore. And I'll email you more about the weekly update idea in between now and my next show.
Great.
So
sounds great.
I want to thank you again. Get some rest. You're sounding pretty good, but get rid of that cold, and I know you will. And if you do have any more contacts in the woods with the beings that we've called Bigfoot, let them know that we're sorry that people on this planet want to try to take them down and not have a peaceful interaction with them. It's just that part is sad, and but we'll wish you the best, and we'll be in touch in the next 2 days.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on the show, and looking forward to doing some more of them.
We'll do some more with you, and we want to thank our listeners and everybody for tuning in to the Cosmic Eye, Astro Command Radio with James Gilliland at the ranch in Mount Adams. And one of the people that I love communicating with, because we're on the same path here, and it's time to unite all the major light workers on the planet who are doing the work to come together. It's in our forces together, united in light, we can never be defeated, and that's the truth. Take care, James, and have a blessed day up that way.
All right, you too. Take care.
Yep, bye-bye.